It's the middle of the Cold War. Nuclear weapons are armed. American warships surround a Soviet submarine. Tensions are so high one misstep could trigger global annihilation. And then, inside that sub, one man has to decide, launch the nuke or stop World War III. That man wasn't a president, not a general, just a quiet Soviet naval officer. His name was Vasili Arkhipov. And in 1962, he saved the world and without anyone knowing. Setting the stage, the Cuban Missile Crisis, October 1962. The United States and the Soviet Union are locked in a silent standoff. American spy planes have discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. President John F. Kennedy demands they be removed. Nikita Khrushchev refuses. The world teeters on the edge of nuclear war. As tensions escalate, the U.S. imposes a naval blockade around Cuba. Soviet ships carrying supplies and maybe even more weapons are on the way. One of them was submarine B-59, a floating powder keg, life on B-59. Submarine B-59 was a diesel-powered sub, designed for deep-sea patrol, not comfort. The conditions were hellish. It was hot, cramped air conditioning failed, temperatures soared above 45 degrees, 113 degrees, oxygen levels dropped, carbon dioxide built up, crew members fainted. The sailors hadn't communicated with Moscow in days. They had no idea what was happening above. Then came the moment that changed history. On October 27th, U.S. Navy destroyers detected B-59 and began dropping depth charges, not to destroy it, but to force it to surface. But to the crew inside, it felt like war had started. There was no way to confirm otherwise. No radio contact, no visibility. They genuinely believed World War III had begun. The decision, fire or not fire. Armed with a single nuclear torpedo, B-59 had the firepower to destroy a U.S. aircraft carrier and likely ignite full-scale nuclear retaliation. According to Soviet protocol to launch the torpedo, 3 officers on board had to agree. Captain Valentin Savitsky, furious and convinced war had begun, wanted to launch. Political officer Ivan Maslenikov agreed with the captain. Vasili Arkhipov, the third man, the only one who said no. Arkhipov was the flotilla commander, technically outranking the captain. His refusal stopped the launch. He argued that they should surface, re-establish contact with Moscow, and wait for orders. If Arkhipov had said yes even once, nuclear war would have begun in the middle of the Atlantic. We wouldn't be here talking about it. The man who stood alone. Who was Vasili Arkhipov? He was no stranger to danger. Many sailors died from radiation poisoning. Arkhipov survived, barely. Some say it was that experience that made him cautious, skeptical, wise beyond his years. On B-59, he wasn't dramatic, he didn't shout. He simply said, "We are not launching, we surface." He convinced 2 angry, panicked men in a boiling, claustrophobic sub to hold fire. And because of him, we're still alive. Unknown hero, the sub surfaced. The Americans backed off. The crisis de-escalated over the following days, with Khrushchev eventually removing the missiles from Cuba. But back in the USSR, Arkhipov wasn't treated as a hero. There was no parade, no medals, no TV interviews. In fact, his role in preventing nuclear war wasn't made public until decades later. It wasn't until 2002, 40 years after the event, that the world learned how close we came to annihilation and how one man saved humanity. What if he said yes? Let's pause and imagine. What if Arkhipov had agreed to launch? A U.S. destroyer destroyed. The U.S. responds, likely with nuclear retaliation. The Soviet Union answers back. Washington, Moscow, London, New York, Berlin, gone. Tens of millions dead. Nuclear winter begins. The Cold War wouldn't just have turned hot. It would have ended civilization as we know it. The lesson. One person matters. Vasili Arkhipov is a reminder that history isn't always shaped by leaders in palaces or generals on battlefields. Sometimes it's shaped by one exhausted, sweating man in a submarine, choosing peace when others demanded war. He never asked for recognition. He never claimed to save the world, but he did. If you think one person can't make a difference, remember Vasili Arkhipov. The world owes him everything. What would you have done in his place? Subscribe for more forgotten stories that changed the world. Drop a comment. Who's another unknown hero we should cover next?